Hey there, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, great agents. This is Bill Pipes coming at you from Tom Ferry, your coach. Alive, excited, full of energy as always. Just want to welcome you back to another great session of Real Success, where we have, real agents sharing real strategies and sharing the successes ultimately that they have. And I got to tell you guys, today I have got one of what I think is going to be one of the most amazing interviews that we've had the chance to do with one of my good friends, long-term coaching client for Tom, and in addition to that, just a kick-ass guy, man. Just someone that is amazing as a person, incredible as a leader, and just, powerful as, like in the space of real estate and really making a difference. It's Mr. Tim Smith. So in a second, we'll bring Tim on. But as we get started here today, what I want to talk to you guys about is, we're ending the year, we're beginning the year. 2014 is either over or, like really close. And here's what I want you guys to think about. I know that a lot of us are sitting here going, gosh, man, I could have done a little bit better. I wish I would have worked a little bit harder. Gosh, what am I going to do for this next year? How am I going to position myself so that 2015 is infinitely better than the year that I just had? Or you could be sitting there going, gosh, this was a great year. I had a huge breakthrough. This is fantastic. How do I do it again? How do I do better? And really, when we think about, because one of the things you're going to learn about Tim here is that, this is a guy that has been through ups and downs. He's been through highs and lows, and he is just really skyrocketing to the top right now. And people look at him, they look at agents like Tim, and they go, oh, they must have some secret. There must be some special thing that they're doing. And I think that today what you're going to find out is, it just comes down to some basics. It comes down to, what is the mindset you're going to have for this new year, and does it support your goals? It comes down to what are the relevant strategies that you're using or that you need to incorporate into your business model and really master. And then last is, what is your expectation? What do you expect of this next year? Do you expect it to be a great year? Do you expect it to be a struggle? Because your expectation is going to have your next 12 months align with that. So, in fact, before this call, Tim and I were talking, and he was talking about like this push for the end of the year. And he just referred back to Think and Grow Rich, a great book, which, by the way, if you guys haven't read it recently, get it out, read it. Tom, myself, Tim, all of these really high-powered individuals, we read that at least once a year. So I'd highly encourage you to do that. And Tim said, hey, man, it's just, I'm thinking about, my goal from now to the end of the year, pushing strong, making sure it's strong. He goes, it's just like Think and Grow Rich, man. Put my focus on what it is that I want, the expectations. So, all right. So enough from me. I want to introduce this rock star, Mr. Tim Smith. Tim, how you doing, man?
Feeling great. I'm very appreciative to be a part of this. And I just got to say that when I first connected with Bill through Tom Ferry as an organization, I'm a big Tom Ferryite. Love the organization, not just because they're great, but because what it's done for my business, the accountability, the coaching. But when I met Bill, when we really hung out for the first time in New York, I'm like, Tom, this is like the trifecta for us. So happy to be here. Really enjoy spending time with Bill and all those that are following and watching. Big fan of Bill Pipes. Big shout out.
Thank you, man. Well, and Tim, I want people to get to know who you are, because a lot of people in our community know of you, have heard you speak, have been inspired by you. Tim Smith, number 16 in the nation for teams according to Wall Street Journal on the Wall Street Journal rankings. The number 2 team in Orange County, but that's a fading memory. That's going to change, right, Tim? So
yeah, we're looking in our rearview mirror for that one.
I love it, man. Top 1% of all agents in the nation. Number 4 team in the world for Coldwell Banker. Goal for this year, $400 million. Right now, sitting at about $233 million. Now, by the way, that's in production, guys. So I know some of you just went, oh my gosh. And here's what I say to you. Hey, guys, you're next. And that's what I want you to get, is that any of you in the next 4 or 5 years could be where Tim is right now if you just really followed some of the strategies, some of the principles he's going to share with you here today, man. So Tim, great year. Breakthrough year, dude. Tell us a little bit about like you, your team, your structure. Just take a couple minutes and share with us what that looks like and how you're doing this volume, man.
So I mean, really started in 2008 when I started coaching. I've always been an above average salesperson, but when I decided to really make a business out of it was when I was kind of like having one of my breakdown moments, and that's where I met Tom, and that's where I started focusing on the bottom line in business. And ever since we started, it was a growth to how do we get to a certain level of production, and it was about designing it, executing, and then just having a little bit of the enabling power of the universe to really assist us in the process. And that's a big process. And I go back to Think and Grow Rich, which you started with. We could probably stop the interview right now and just have everybody read Think and Grow Rich. Really read it, and not really, I mean, really digest it. It is probably the most important thing I've ever done in my life, and every January I read that book. So huge shout out to Think and Grow Rich, and anybody that hasn't, that really wants to take advantage of business. I would say the coaching aspect and then the Think and Grow Rich. But ultimately, over the last 7 or 8 years, as you start growing, adding team members that support hiring for the job, not the person, understanding where you're trying to go, and if you're trying to really get to a certain level of production, it's really backing out the numbers. It's re-engineering. It's just the fundamentals of appointments and contracts, getting back to the basics. If I want to make $3 million this year, this is how much volume, this is how many listing appointments, this is how many buyers appointments, and this is what my team needs to look like to get me there. And it really is that simple. Not easy, because modern execution is how do we execute, but simple.
Nice. So you have your team right now, I mean, because you've grown this. I mean, this is organically grown. You've had a huge breakthrough in this. Your team is, if I remember correctly, it's nine salespeople, 6 back-end support on the admin side, right? And in terms of just like how that's structured, is everyone, I'm just curious, everyone prospecting? Is everyone like going out? I mean, what does it mean to be on the Tim Smith team? What are some of those expectations and standards that you have for them? And then we're going to talk about you in a second.
Well, that's changed dramatically since 2007-8 when I was building my team. I kind of would take anybody that want to be a part of it. But now as we continue to grow, and one of the things that, I don't expect my agents to do anything that I'm not doing, but it's very rare that my agents actually do the type of production I am. Mm-hmm. And it's not just about the production, but it's about do the daily routine, do the daily building blocks that create that type of, those type of results. So I would say that now it's becoming a team where accountability is the hugest part, that everybody wants to be a part, and the people that aren't producing just don't last. And it's a very cool environment. It's like I feel so lucky to have a team in which we have a culture where people want to be together, and we really are a family. As kind of cliche as that may sound, it's like everybody on the team really gets along from a standpoint. Doesn't mean there's not healthy tension. Healthy tension is good, but it's like we have a crew that everybody's great people. They do the right thing, and they're hard workers, and they know how to solve problems.
Love it, man. You and I were talking earlier here today, and I love something that you said, okay? Because, there's 2 types of leaders. There's those leaders that sit back and say, go do this, and then there's the leaders that's doing it that pulls the team forward and says, hey, come with me, right? Who's doing it. You said something earlier. You said, I can't create an expectation for anyone on my team that I'm not doing myself. One of the things that I love, like honest to goodness, man, love about you. We're standing backstage at Summit. You and I are talking. You're talking about your why. I mean, it's just, from a mindset perspective, a contribution perspective, I don't think there's anyone that I've met that comes from that space as strong as you do. How do you create that? What is your morning routine that you use to get yourself going strong and kicking butt and taking names, man?
So I know that everybody feels this, because it doesn't matter what level of production or where you are in life, you can get, I don't know if you've ever seen that picture that shows the little kitty cat looking in the mirror and there's a lion. Well, mm-hmm. I think there's the opposite of that is the lion's looking in the mirror. It's a kitty cat. This business has a way of breaking us down. Any business, life has a way of breaking us down. And what I found for me, and what I'm starting to find that's consistent among all agents, what's great about this business is anybody can do it, but the challenge is you have to be willing to do it. And so the thing that's been probably the consistent thing for me and I kind of call it putting my armor on, is my daily routine. And my daily routine goes like every night I plan. And that's probably take 15 to 30 minutes with all my lists, my CMR. I plan how I'm going to get my appointments and contracts for the next day. I mean, it's always fundamentally that building block, and how I'm going to get my 14 contacts, my 14 conversations, whatever it is. So I start with that, and I put together a to-do list which prioritizes the number one task. There's a big difference between being busy and being productive, as we know. Because agents in this business, I have some of the best agents in the business in my office, not on my team, but they get no business. So it's like, how great is it? I mean, how good is it for you to be in a business where you're not making any money? So the difference between being busy and productive, huge thing. Second thing, every morning when I wake up, either starts with a workout or just some alone time, and I go out there and I really, really try to get centered, put the armor on, try to be strong, not try, but figure out a way that I can build in my environment, whether it's reading, whether it's memorizing some things, and then every day the affirmations. And that might sound a little bit, I don't know, it sounds a little hokey, and I know when I talk about it, but everybody I know in successive sales positions or successful businesses, entrepreneurs, all have something in their morning routine that allows them to get grounded, to get focused, and then to rely on some of the principles that we're talking about in Think and Grow Rich, and those are my affirmations. And I can't emphasize enough, you know, this year has been much more of a grind than last year. Last year was such a good year. I remember coming home in May and telling my wife, I should be arrested. We should be arrested. I mean, this is like being a drug dealer. The amount of money we're making, and it's so easy. It shouldn't be. I mean, it was one of those things I wasn't used to. It was just an incredible thing. Well, this year it's back to the grind. Over inspections, deals falling in escrow, and we're really grinding to get to our numbers. Obviously, our goal was 400 million. We're not going to hit that. Now it's 300 million. So we have, you know, roughly 2.5 more months for the end of the year to get there, and we're doing a huge push, new affirmations, new daily routine, new planning. That's been a grind, and I'm pressing forward, and it's not easy, but what I know, if I do my part, I can expect the results. And somehow, and we don't know this right now, Bill, but somehow by the end of the year we will get to 300 million, and
Right.
by the end of the year something really lucky will happen where we'll be like, okay, I pushed, and the thing is, you can never give up. And I love that. If you look at the word focus, I love the acronym that you can get from it. Follow one course until successful. The problem with most people is they don't follow that one course until successful. Either they get distracted, they stop. Going back to Think and Grow Rich, that's what the principles are all about.
You know what I love is I always use you as an example, man, for affirmations. In 70 to 100 seminars this last year, I said, let me share with you Tim Smith, and that he does affirmations. And what's really funny is I get this look from like half the audience where they go, really? Here's a guy that's going to make, like, he and his team $9-10 million, in 2014, and he's doing affirmations. Like, not a lot, but just like 30 seconds. Speak to me, or speak to the audience, if you would, on the importance of that, especially now as it's more of a grind.
Okay, so this is my 30-second takeaway. Gino Buffini could do it much better when he talks about the non-conscious part of your mind. The challenge with everybody and every day is you focus on doubt, worry, fear over and over and over and over again. And it becomes disruptive thinking for you to change what you're focused on. So the affirmations for me right now, it's, hey, I market and sell 75 million by November 24th, and all things create that perfect end result. And it's like saying that over and over and over and over and over. Your mind is the smartest thing, but the dumbest thing. It's very simple. It's like the thing that you focused on most, it just has a way of bringing it into your life. And I know it sounds so hokey, and everybody, even in my team members to this day, I think that they actually think the affirmations are hokey, but I can tell you, as I focus on them every day, I have a way of just every time achieving those results. And I understand that there's like a principle in the universe. The harder I work, the luckier I get. You know, it's the harder you work, the luckier you get. The more you execute those on what actually creates the results with the affirmations, there's just something about where the universe supports you, and it just brings it to you. And half the time, it's not based on what you're doing. It's based on some lucky event that just comes into your life as a result of you doing all this on the other side. And it's huge. And I can't emphasize enough, because every year I get to the end of the year, I'm like, I should have stretched more, because I get to the end of the year, and now it's like probably funny for most people. They look at it, but I remember when one time my first one was I wanted to make $2,500 a month, and that was my big sexy. And so you start doing it, I focus on it, and now it's like we're in a different stratosphere. But it's all relative, and I feel grateful.
You know what I love, man, is that you said, I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. You know, I don't know, you know, like I'm going to shake the bush and something's going to fall out of it. You know, it's interesting because you were talking about fundamentals, and you know, one of the key goals that we have for every listener is that they walk out of this with 3 implementable strategies. Obviously, number 1 is this morning routine. That's critical, I think. Talk to me about fundamentals, because you're huge on that. When I said, wait, what are you guys doing? What are you working on? You said, hey man, it's all back to basics, fundamentals, blocking and tackling. Talk to me a little bit, if you would, or about what you guys are doing from a fundamental standpoint to really position yourself for 2015 to really have a breakthrough.
Okay, so when you're starting to really get clear on your business, you're starting to get clear on the numbers you need. It's very easy, simple, just to base on, if I want to do this much in production, this is my average purchase price or my average price, and then for me to get the average price, how many appointments do I need to go on to get listings taken, listings sold? It's all about the numbers, and it's so easy to engineer these numbers, but everything comes down to the fundamental building blocks, and it's generally appointments and contracts. And one of the things, when I was a kid, I'm the youngest of 5, my older brothers and sister, for whatever reason, they all loved pickles and olives. And I don't know what it was, and you've probably heard me talk about this before, I just didn't like them. I mean, olives and pickles to me, for something, it was just like I was allergic to them. But it bothered me, and as I got to the age of like 8 or 9, it really bothered me that they got so much enjoyment out of these 2 things that I hated. I had disdain for them. So I decided when I was 10 or 11, I'm going to make myself like these. Took me 2 to 3 years to really go through and just continue to eat pickles and olives, to the point where now I love pickles and olives. They're one of my favorite like choice snacks. But what's interesting, it's the same thing with this whole business. It's like the difference between the successful and the rest is the successful are not comfortable with doing these things. They're willing to do these things while the rest aren't. And when you can get comfortable doing those things, the blocking and tackling, the appointments and contracts, the prospecting, then and only then will you succeed. And it's not something like an outfit you can just take off, put on, change. It's a uniform. Day in, day out, 14 conversations a day, asking the 3 questions, appointments and contracts is the key. And I can't emphasize that. It's not easy or simple for anybody. It's like the better you get at it, the more eloquent it becomes. So it's one of those things where it's just getting up to bat, increasing the frequency of those opportunities to get the results.
I love it. So I join your team. Let's say, for hypothetically, I join your team. I come in. I'm doing I'm doing 4, 5, 6 transactions a year. I'm committed to be able to do 20, 24, whatever the number is, right, to have an enormous breakthrough. What would you say, hey, Bill, here's exactly what I want you to do for the next 90 days, 12 months, and you follow this, and you're going to succeed? What would that be?
It's just pretty much rephrasing what I just said. We would take what level you wanted to hit. We would reverse engineer that. We'd say, well, what's the average price of your deals? So in order for us to get that, how many deals do we need to get? If our batting average is for listing appointments to converting to listings taken is 60%, for every 10 listings you're going to take 6. For every 6 listings you're going to sell 4 with 2 buyer sells. We would go through and engineer it and figure out how many appointments, listing appointments, you're going to need to go on a week. And what's interesting is that's where it gets a little scary, because once you know what the numbers are, I'm not going to be I'm literally going to be in the trenches aside of you working on my numbers, but if you're not getting your numbers, I'm not going to grind you. It's up to you. And it's like one of those things, I allow you to be empowered and to be supported, but I'm not going to do it for you. And ultimately, it's a really interesting thing, because at the end of the day, I say this quite frequently, everyone sitting there, and me included, you're exactly where you want to be because that's where you are. You've chosen to be there. So the only one you can look at is yourself if you're not getting the results. And that's it. And when you get really clear on taking 100% responsibility for where you are today, that's the only way you can improve. Where results are measured, results can improve. And if you don't know exactly where you are, and that's the funny thing, most people don't know what they want to do. And it's as simple as designing the plan. And it's not easy, and you have to make tweaks. I mean, the best conversations for me are, okay, we went on 10 listing appointments this month, and we only got 3. What's going on? Because usually we're at 6 out of 10, and it's 60% conversion rate. Or we've taken 9 listings, and we've only sold 1. Like, those are the conversations that are really fun to have, because that's where you're actually hitting your numbers, and then it's just about adjusting of how you can get better, how you can present better, how you can convert more, how you can set expectations better. So, but the key is only 5 or 10% of people are really willing to do what it takes to get the numbers to begin with.
And to keep track of them and look at them and figure out what they, I always use this example. You go on vacation, there's very few hotels or resorts that are going to have a scale in the bathroom for you to hop on when you're on vacation. Like, it's sort of, realtors, we don't like to keep track of our numbers because we don't want to see the reality. But you're saying there's no growth without really keeping track and looking at those numbers, right?
Yeah, if results aren't measured, results can't improve. And it's like, the funny thing to me is I talk to everybody in Orange County, LA, San Diego, how you doing this year? Oh, I'm doing great. Well, how are your numbers? Oh, they're awesome. I'm like, well, what are they? Are they more than that? I don't really know. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you not really know? Is like, are you in this business to make money, or are you just in this business because it's a fun business? Because it's a great business, but ultimately it's like, how do people not know? I mean, I know how many listing appointments I've been on this year. I know exactly how much I've closed, pending, in escrow, what my team's doing. It's like, without a scoreboard, we're not really playing. Yeah. It's the scoreboard.
It's a hobby. Like, if you're not keeping track of your numbers, real estate is a hobby. It's not.
It's the difference between being busy and being productive.
Yeah, totally. I love it. Hey, you know what? This is a little bit off topic, but your business. Tell us about your, like, real quick, 30,000-foot view of where the business comes from and the sources. Like, where does it come from? Does it come from, like, your database? Are you farming? Like, what's the breakdown there?
So I would say that. And I know these exactly. I don't have these numbers in front of me, but number 1 source is sphere of influence. Number 2 is past client. And then number 3 is a mix of, and this is tricky because geographic, like geographic farming, but we really call it not just geographic farming. I'm identifying opportunities within Orange County that we're doing specific direct mail marketing to, and then it's along with me prospecting. So those are really our top 4. The interesting thing is the best business for all agents is your sphere and your past client. It's probably where we nurture the least. We spend more time chasing strangers than we do nurturing the ones that are our best business sources. And that's our big push for all of my agents and my administrative team. It's like, get Tim to the golf course, get Tim to charity events, get Tim to events, because this is where he's going to connect with those people that are more of the people that already use him. Yeah. And so that would kind of be and then we're huge. I mean, we have, probably 15 lead generating sources that we track between the teams for the team, and everybody has a little bit different focus of which they focus more on.
So I want to do something. It's the end of the year. It's the beginning of the year. End of 2014, beginning of 2015. What is something I could do that would, like, be a great value add to my database? What is something maybe that you guys are doing, or that you would recommend for these guys and gals that are listening to be able to touch effectively their database here in these next couple of weeks? Okay,
so that's a bigger question, and I'm going to answer a different answer for a question I want to have first. Okay. So I love fly fishing. For me, it takes my mind off everything, and there's not a lot of things where I can actually go and be like, just only be thinking about that. You know how it is when you're running a business and you always have thoughts of how you could do it. But anyway, my brother-in-law's my father, we went fly fishing this past year. We were floating the North Platte River, great river, tons of fish, and the fish that everybody wants to catch is a German brown. Well, they're 5% of the fish. They're smarter, they're bigger. You just don't catch them very often. Well, my brother-in-law brings one in. And so when he brings it in, he pulls it into the boats, And our tour or our fishing guide, who's a friend, I call him the White Buffalo, just like head to toe beard, just great guy. We're talking about music. He's the type of guy that I'm practicing karate kicks in the garage, if you know what I'm saying, like good friend. Anyway, so he takes this fish, he puts like a baster syringe in its mouth, puts it down there, pulls out water, puts in his hand, and shows all the flies that he's eating. And what's interesting is all of us are looking for that, that strike zone, the perfect client. I don't know what your perfect client is, but the challenge is for most people is it's not a plan that's designed, it's just by default. The first thing that every person needs to understand is what's your unique selling proposal. So what are you offering the marketplace? And the key is it probably doesn't matter what it is as long as you're committed to it. The more you know your voice, the more your voice can be heard, and the more you can duplicate those perfect clients. It's understanding what the fish are eating and giving them what they're eating. So I would say, I don't know where your databases are, I don't know what you're doing with them, but understanding your people and being relevant, having relevant content and marketing to get more of those people engaged in your business. And that's not an easy thing. That can be challenging, but just it's got to be well thought out. And clearly, there is a way for everybody to be a seller's best option. Whether it's, hey, you know what, I'm competing against Tim Smith. Well, you're not going to get Tim Smith. That's what they're going to say. And you're not going to get his team, and you're not going to get 100% attention, which really isn't true because the way I have my team set up. But I know that somebody could fight against me and get it by saying, I will be here every day. I'll be here every night. If I don't sell it for a certain price, I'll sell it for free. That's what I'm committed to. The more you get of those, the more you have a track record and some past experience to build a business and a model on.
Nice. You guys have planned out your marketing probably for 2015, or you're in the process of doing that for the entire year for your database, right? For geographic farm, everything.
Well, so, we have how often they get hit and what we're going to do. But we obviously change that as we get closer. It needs to be relevant to what's happening in the marketplace. And when I say that, what's happening in the world, what's happening in your specific business is, last year, 2012 to 2013, the best year we had in 5 years, it was awesome. It was simple. It was like smooth sailing. It was like sunny days, endless summer. This year, it's been great, but it's more of a grind. So it's like understanding the market to be able to touch with relevant content is the key. But yeah, understanding when things go out, when we're going to do our event, you plan that stuff in advance, absolutely.
What I'm gaining from this entire interview, man, is what a planner you are. Like every night, sitting down, writing out, hey, here's what I'm going to do today, here's how I'm going to get my contacts. Real quick, I want to ask you a question, because we were talking about this. Do you prospect, like, every day? Are you on the phone, reaching out? Like, is that really what you're doing?
Every day. And it's the thing is like what's really interesting, there's days when I'll have 3 listing appointments, 2 second showings, and be negotiating 5 deals. And when my assistant or some of my admin team will be sending me phone numbers to say, I just got this phone number of somebody we're heard selling, here is the number, cold contact. It's great. I was going to a meeting 2 weeks ago, and it was a meeting with one of my really big clients. He just sold a company for $135 million. In 2006, he sold one for $600 million. And on the way, it was 8:30, and I was cold calling a prospect that we had been sending packages to in Costa Mesa. And it was the funniest conversation because the guy's like, hey, this is Tim Smith, Coldwell Banker. He's like, I know who you are. I'm like, hey, I'm just calling. My question that's very simple. Here's a nugget. Have you had any thoughts of selling? Everybody's had thoughts of selling. It's the perfect bait because it always brings a conversation that you could actually create a listing appointment from. So we start having this conversation, and he's like, owns a $750,000 house in Eastside Costa Mesa, and it was just a crack up. He's like, I can't believe you're cold calling me at 8:30 in the morning. Most of the time I'd hang up, but I know who you are, and so it's funny. So we have this little like healthy tension the whole time. He wouldn't set up an appointment with me. He ended up setting up an appointment, but it's like he knew that I was prospecting. He liked the attention, and so he made me call him again. But yeah, absolutely. So it's like my 5, 5, and 4s, which is what every day I strive for, my 5, 5, and 4s. 5 new conversations with people that I don't know, sellers. 5 follow-ups to people that are in my list that I'm incubating, and then 4 conversations with my sphere. And it's very difficult to make those calls every day. Not make them, it's difficult to get through 15 conversations. It's nearly impossible. But
Yeah.
every day that's my goal. And every day I start out with those things. Like this morning when I was coming here,
Mhm.
before I called you, I had made 2 calls to, to prospects that I'm working on right now.
Dude, you know what I love is that we get so many people that say, "Oh gosh, I'm so busy, I don't have time to prospect," and like that's just not an option for you. That is a like this is what I do, no matter how difficult it is. 5 days a week, I'm going to do this, which is
But it's
fantastic.
actually 6 days a week.
Oh,
But yeah, so 6 days a week. But the funny thing is, it's funny that you say that because I would say that if there's any complaints that people have with me, is that I'm not available for what would be the low producing activities. And it's funny, it's like if somebody's like wasting my time, I got a guy right now that's buying a house that's I've been in escrow twice with him, and it probably isn't going to happen, but it's a $10 million transaction and we're in escrow, so I'm going to give it as much time as it needs to keep it together, but he wants time every day. I just don't call him back. I send him text very directly and say, hey, this is where we are. There's no need for us to talk. Hates it. Last night he fired me via text, and I'm like, and instead of like getting rattled like I used to do, I'm like, unfortunately, you can't really fire me, but I appreciate the attempt. And I'm not trying to be, but it's like, what's interesting is you have to guard your time. When you're really focused on results, like I break down what it is my time's worth down to the hour. So I think in my mind, is this an hour that I'm really worth spending when I'm worth this amount? And you start getting really protective of your time. And ultimately, it's like, there's nothing more important than prospecting. And it's not just prospecting new, it's your sphere of influence. It's asking them questions, setting up coffee, because that's the key. The thing I really understand trying to catch the German Brown, the well clients, what I really like about what's happening in the world right now is that people are really diversifying into luxury properties as assets. The markets aren't performing, there's uncertainty, so the billionaires, the really big wells, the German Browns, they love buying properties as a safe haven, as a place to put their money for long term that's safer than any of the other markets. And what's great, it's become a currency for the ultra wealthy. So it's not uncommon for them to own houses all over the US and world and have 6, 8, 10 homes. And you lock into somebody like that really sees your value, and that's where your business gets really interesting. And it's
awesome.
about curating that type of lifestyle and being around that type of, those type of people.
Do you, one last question here, because I know that we're over on time and you've got, again, honoring your time. Um, if I wanted to break into the higher end, right? Because, like everyone looks at that like it's the unicorn. Oh my gosh, if I could go and, if that could happen, it would be fantastic. Um, Give me like 1 or 2 bits of advice, quick, if you could, in terms of what someone could do to begin to ease into that higher end market.
Okay, so I mean, this is a perfect question for me because I grew up with no high-end like relationships. Santa Ana and Irvine is where we grew up, but all my marketplace is coastal now, so I didn't really have any like relationships, so I had to build all mine. So there's 2 things. Number 1, you need to be an expert. And when I say that, you need to be an expert. You need to know your data. You need to know who's buying houses, what they're buying. You need to know the houses they're buying, the stuff that's not on the market, and you need to know it cold because the people at this level know the market better than you do. And they'll size you up in 30 seconds. I mean, it's like so quick. The way you smile will allow them to see whether or not you know your stuff. And what's interesting is when you know your stuff, you'll see how easy it is because you'll be able to tell them things about their specific neighborhood, who's buying, who's selling. So there is no substitute for information and knowledge. What's great about what Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, Public Records, all that information is available. It's available now. Pull the grantees, figure it out. Early in my career, I used to sit at open houses 3, 4, 5 times a week at the most expensive houses I could. And when people would come in, I would know everything about the people because they were the neighbors. And I would talk about the Williams who lived next door or the Johnsons who lived up the street as if I knew them. They have 3 kids. They go to St. Margaret's. Their top kid is a basketball player. never met them before, but all that information sounds a little creepy, but the truth is if you want to attract those people, you have to have the knowledge. That's number one. Number two, and probably the most important thing, is we all know that what sells homes, 90% of homes sell because of price and the MLS, right? But we have all these different marketing tools, all these different things that we can do, whether it be property films, V-tours, like you name it. There's all these different tools we have that don't necessarily bring the buyers, but things are changing and they will, but they sell the sellers. So understanding that marketing done effectively makes selling superfluous helps you to understand spending money on some of those things that are going to sell this type of person, going back to the German Brown, seeing what they're eating, seeing what they like, doing more of those things is the key. And I mean, if there's, a couple of little hints, I would say, there's a room.com, R-U-H-M. They do marketing better than anybody I've ever seen with luxury real estate. There's a bunch of companies like that. Find a company that can help you with drone footage, do those things, because that's the type of thing that gets you more up to bats. Perfect example, we took a listing that was owned by a national landscape company. This family owned it, and it was a really unique home. We spent 10 weeks with the seller remodeling the house because it's all about making like perfect properties, making it feel like a model. What was the remodel? We didn't pull any permits. It was a new kitchen, some new floors, paint, light fixtures, and staging. That was it. But what was interesting, we did a really awesome film on it, and for this particular house that had a bunch of animals, horses and chickens and dogs, we wrote a children's book. And the children's book was about a swallow, because it was in San Juan Capistrano, at the Swallows Day Parade. They got stuck at this property, and the animals took them through the property. The reason that we did that, and we sent it out to all other people in San Juan, we got 9 listing appointments from that book. We still haven't sold the house. We've negotiated offers, but we haven't found anybody that's gone under contract. So that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. And that children's book, although may not have been effective to sell the house to a buyer, 9 appointments from that one book done a direct mail piece, because what? It showed sellers that we market differently. And it was super clever. I mean, it was a great idea. So that would be my...
I love that, man. That
fantastic. Would be my nugget.
Yeah. Well, and and I love what you said. You said really there's 2 sales that take place. There's all the marketing and everything that you do, which really sells the seller on working with you, right? Okay, because you said it's price and MLS that even at that high end is going to sell the house, right?
Right.
And this what you guys did though is create incredible exposure, for the property, and in addition to that, it generated obviously more listing appointments for you as well too. Dude, Timmy, first of all, I know I'm going to go back and listen to this interview 2, 3, 4 times because there's so many nuggets inside of here. Normally I can surmise and go, here's your 3 points. I don't know if I have enough fingers on my hand for all the points that we hit today, man. And so I'm really excited for everyone that got the chance to listen to Tim today and to participate in this. And I just want to say, hey, Tim, dude, from me to you, dude, you are amazing. I'm inspired by you. There are so many individuals whose lives you change, from your contribution that you make to charity, to just the incredible service, and just the being on the shearing edge here for us in real estate. We need more leaders like you. And Tom and myself and everyone at our company is just grateful to have the opportunity to work with you and for you to have taken this time and really shared with everyone as much as you have. So thank you so much, brother.
Thanks for the opportunity. And if anybody wants to connect with me, smithgrouprealestate.com, my Instagram, tsmith007. I'd love to connect with anybody that I can. And if anybody has friends or people that are thinking of selling Orange County, I'd love to help them out, and I'll make sure that I make you look great for referring me, and I'm happy to pay that referral fee of 25%. But really appreciate it, Bill. Appreciate Tom's organization. Anything I can do for anybody, I have limited time, but an email or whatever, I'd be happy to share, especially if you're not in my marketplace, as long as I'm not competing against you. Happy to share and be pretty transparent about what we're doing.
You're the best, man. Awesome, dude. Well, hey, happy holidays. Enjoy yourself. Here's to a great 2015, man. I know you got a bunch to do today, so again, thanks. And I'll connect with you here in a couple days, man. Okay?
Thanks. Cheers, guys.
You're the best, man. Thanks.